Okay, so the other day I saw this post and it was like drowning in hashtags. Like
Uh,
seriously, there were more hashtags than words in the actual caption. So it got me thinking, is this like some next level marketing or did they just fall asleep on the keyboard?
yeah, I think we've all been there.
Ah,
Like it's hashtag overload, but there's a real art to using these things effectively. Wouldn't
yeah,
you say?
absolutely. We've got this great article by Curt Robbins. He's a senior technical writer who can guide us through all this.
Okay, a technical writer taking on like hashtag etiquette.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued.
I know, right? And right away, Kurt says that using hashtags the right way can actually double your engagement on X.
Really?
Double.
Wow, that's not just significant, that's huge. But it makes sense, right? If you think about how algorithms work, I mean, they're kind of like these invisible gatekeepers that decide who gets seen and who, well, doesn't.
Okay, so pause for a second. For those of us who aren't fluent in algorithm, could you maybe break that down a bit?
Totally. So think of an algorithm as like a set of rules,
Hmm.
right, that a social platform uses to decide what content to show you. It's trying to match you with the stuff you'll actually like.
Yeah.
And too many hashtags can actually confuse it.
Mm.
It can make it think your post is less relevant.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about getting as many hashtags out there as possible. More hashtags doesn't automatically mean more people are going to see it.
No, not at all. It's more about whispering to the algorithm,
Okay.
not shouting. Just give it enough information to understand what your post is about and who it's for.
Hmm.
Algorithms are always trying to connect with the most relevant audience, so quality over quantity, right? Just like with everything else.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm way more likely to click on a hashtag that's, super specific to what I'm into.
Exactly, and that's where this whole idea of relevance comes in.
Okay.
Kurt uses a great example, by the way.
Okay.
He says, imagine you're posting about the future of AI, okay? Slapping on a bunch of random trending hashtags might get you a few extra glances, but using targeted hashtags like, hashtag artificial intelligence
Right.
or hashtag AI will attract the people who are actually interested in that topic.
It's like wandering into a crowded room and just yelling like, "Hey, everyone," versus walking up to a group of people who are already talking about something that you're interested in.
Yes, you got it. It's about, like, finding your tribe, not just shouting into the void, right?
Now, that's what I call a hashtag strategy.
There you go.
But, before we get too deep into the strategy of it all, I have to admit something. I always thought hashtags had been around forever.
Really?
Yeah. But it turns out it all started back in 2007
Oh, wow.
with a software developer named Chris Messina.
Okay.
And he's the one who suggested using the pound sign or hashtag to group related posts together during the San Diego wildfires.
Which, by the way, makes him a bit of a legend in the tech world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, like, changing how we communicate online with one symbol. And here's a fun fact. The word hashtag wasn't even in the dictionary until 2014.
Wow, really? That recently? It feels like, I don't know, they've been around forever. So we've got this like new invention that can totally make or break our social media presence. And we're starting to get a handle on this whole like algorithm whispering thing.
Right.
But is there like a magic number of hashtags for maximum impact?
The magic hashtag number. It's a myth. Sadly, there's no magic number that's going to make you a social media star.
Oh, man.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
So how do we know how many is too many then?
Well, remember how we were talking about algorithms being like gatekeepers, right?
Yeah.
Each platform kind of has its own preferences,
Yeah.
its own sweet spot for hashtags.
Oh,
Kurt actually breaks it down in the article. He says, for X, with its focus on, being concise, he recommends one or two hashtags max.
okay.
Instagram, on the other hand, they allow for more. Up to 11, in fact.
11. Wow, that's a lot of hashtags.
It is a lot. But just because you can use 11 doesn't mean you should, right? It always comes back to relevance
Right.
and whispering to the algorithm.
Give it just enough info.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about relevance, algorithms, but what about all those super popular hashtags? You know the ones, they're trending all over the place.
Sure.
Are those worth using or are they too general?
That's a great question. And Kurt actually addresses that in the article.
Okay.
He says, do some research. See which ones are relevant to, like, your field or your industry. The key is that sweet spot.
Okay, so finding that sweet spot between like relevance and reach.
Exactly. It's like riding a wave, right? You want to catch a wave that's big enough to give you some momentum, but not so big that it, like, crashes on you, you get pulled under.
Yeah.
And timing is everything. Like if you jump on one that's already, dying down, it's not going to do much for you.
Mhm.
But if you catch a rising wave, that's where it's at.
Makes sense. Now, speaking of hashtags, I've also seen people putting them in their profiles now. Is that a thing?
Yeah, for sure. It's a way to signal, like, your interests, your expertise, right?
Right.
But the rules can be different on different platforms. LinkedIn actually says no clickable hashtags in profiles, and X actually encourages it.
Wow, so every platform has its own little quirks.
Yeah, it definitely takes practice, right?
It does. There are so many nuances. Okay, so one more hashtag thing, formatting, specifically initial caps.
Okay.
So Kurt's a big fan of using initial caps in hashtags like, hashtag Curt Robbins Technical Writer, instead of just typing it out like all lowercase.
Right.
Why is that? Is that just like a style thing?
It's actually more than just style.
Mm-hmm.
It's about accessibility.
Hmm.
Initial caps make the hashtag way easier to read for everyone,
Mm.
but especially people who use screen readers.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That's such an easy little change.
Exactly. It's a small tweak that can make a big difference.
Right. We think about accessibility a lot for physical spaces, but not always online.
For sure. So we've covered a lot of ground. Algorithm whispering, relevance, accessibility.
Mm.
But it feels like there's a piece missing. We've talked about using hashtags strategically, right, to reach the right people. But what about the hashtags themselves? Isn't there a creative side to this too?
Absolutely. That's where the real magic is. It's not just about using them, it's about crafting them.
Okay.
A well-crafted hashtag, it's like a soundbite, right? Or even like a spark, that gets people to stop scrolling and pay attention.
So it's not just about like being seen, it's about giving them something, I don't know, something to think about.
Yeah, like a really good hashtag can start conversations, even like whole movements, Remember the ice bucket challenge?
Oh yeah, my feed was nothing but ice water for weeks.
Exactly. And it all started with that hashtag, right?
Right.
Hashtag ice bucket challenge. It was catchy, interesting, and people want to be part of something, right?
It became like a call to action almost, like
Yeah.
a way for people to connect. Exactly. That's the power of good hashtag. It's not just about visibility, it's about engaging, starting conversations. It can have a huge impact.
So we've learned the rules, and now it's time to break them.
Yeah.
Get creative with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you'll start the next big hashtag trend.
That's the dream, right? Well, until next time, dear listener, it's time for us to sign off. Think about what we talked about today. Use those hashtags. Get creative. We'll see you on the next deep dive.